with the audience that you have built. So mad respect for that. So my name is Bryan Silva. I've went through the Euro program. Honestly, when I went through it, I didn't think much of it, but I was so eager to like just be successful, and just get an opportunity, to do something impactful. So I went through the project management track for the first 6 months. Did an internship at eBay for the other 6 months, and then after that, uh, I didn't get converted there, but I got a job at Box, and this was all because of just networking. I know that Europe always enforces networking, like, hey, just build those relationships, connect with people, and I did that. So the program started in September, and then in December, towards the end of November, actually, we had a networking event at Europe, and that's when I met my manager. I didn't know he was going to be my manager, but there was a manager there from Box. So he was there, met him, hit it off right, and then established that connection right away. So throughout my internship at eBay, he was constantly reaching out, like, hey, how's everything going? Like, how's eBay? How's Europe? So we maintained that relationship, that connection. And then towards the end of my relationship, he was the one that actually offered me a job there at Box, and it was all because just that connection, the networking, and just being open to an opportunity. So that's where I'm at right now. I've been at Box for almost a year now. So in August, it will be a year. Right now, I'm a project coordinator, as you mentioned. Uh, Heavily working a lot with like asset management and like renewals. So like software, so SaaS, heavily involved with SaaS, and just the whole that whole realm. But yeah, in terms of like my career background, that's currently where I'm at right now.
Good, man. Yeah, I've seen the whole transitioning from eBay to um, all the way to Box, and I've gone to see Box, man. It looks like an amazing place. Super open, very friendly. Overall, I mean, that's probably one opportunity I would definitely take in the future if it doesn't work for me over here or anything.
Yeah.
Um, Overall, what are some mistakes that you've made and you've learned from, whether it's from eBay or um, what's it called, or Box that you're in right now?
Yeah. So I guess a couple like mistakes and like learning opportunities that I've had. So throughout eBay,
Mm.
the team that I was in, so I worked a lot with designers, so like
Okay.
UI, UX designers, and they're heavily involved with their work and their craft. I'm not saying they're antisocial, but like I'm sure you've met programmers and people who are very technical. They're very focused on what they do. Um,
Extremely.
Exactly. So as a result of that, it was a bit more difficult for me to like break that barrier and establish that connection. My mistake, I feel, was not making more of an effort to establish those relationships. So never did I go to lunch with them. So they would constantly go out to lunch together as a group, and never did I make that initiative to be like, hey, like, can I join you guys, or hey, let's go get a coffee or something like that. So I feel like that was a big like learning lesson for me,
Okay.
because I do understand, that sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we expect other people to take that initiative, but sometimes it's from us to take that initiative, and
Yeah.
sometimes just to ask, and just take that initiative. So for me, that's what I didn't do as much, execute and just take that initiative to establish those relationships. I was waiting more on for them to open up the opportunity, but sometimes you have to like take a step, and just take that leap of faith and just hope for the best. So for me, it's just not making an effort to break through those barriers, because I know that in life, we find ourselves with barriers in relationships, any sort of relationship, just whether that be romantic, friendship, or professional relationships. There's sometimes barriers that we sometimes are hold ourselves back from actually breaking.
Yeah, no, I can see myself with that too, because I transitioned myself from I was working in a production team for your Facebook, and I
Yeah.
went to the IT, informational technology side, and I can definitely feel those engineers and designers so focused in their own ideas, and you can't. You're like, I'm gonna. Or they come to me,
Yeah.
which um, um, you keep waiting, you're never gonna get anywhere. So there,
Yep.
I think in mind like, okay, they really ain't coming, so I have to step up and actually take initiative to go over there and and and, and go and at least invite them off for lunch. Like one tip that my manager told me my old manager from when I first interned at Facebook, was every time you go to lunch, at least take one different person out to lunch. It's someone different. You'll learn so much information, and I've taken that with me. Whenever I would go to work, I would be like, I was super scared to ask this person, hey, let's go to lunch. But I was scared to tell them anything, but I would tell them, hey, let's go to lunch. I don't know who you are, but let's go. And we would just be super awkward, just walking next to each other, like, so you work at that. But it felt a lot comfortable, and like I learned a lot from them. Like you'd be surprised how much you learn from another person.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
what do you say? Imposter syndrome is super big when you intern or whenever you're starting.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely something real. I know that it may be different for everyone. Um, Again, like not for me at least. I know that sometimes it was, for example, when I interned at eBay, is just not feeling like I was, I guess, knowledgeable enough in the technical aspect of things. So for me, like, man, I don't belong here. I don't even know like how a website or like the back end of things or front end, UI, UX. So for me, like, there's definitely imposter syndrome in that aspect. I know sometimes, for example, we can get imposter syndrome from just the culture, because I know that heavily, like in the technical path that you and I are both in. There's not a lot of people like us. Like Latinos or Latinas. We see a lot of like Caucasians, and like Americans, like. So there's, in terms of like just presence, sometimes I have experienced that, and it's different. Funny story. So I was in a meeting, I want to say a couple weeks ago, and there was a Hispanic man in my meeting, and it felt good. I was like, wait, what? Like there's another one of, like there's someone else that comes from the same background as me. I didn't talk to him much, but I was like, wow, because for example, a lot of my coworkers are like not from the same background as me in terms of like ethnicity. So sometimes there is imposter syndrome. They're like, yo, do I even belong here? Am I allowed to be here? And we know we are, but since sometimes there's that lack of representation, we do feel that imposter syndrome. So I definitely agree it's true. And I know it's different for everyone, whether that be from the technical, ethnical, or sociable. There's different forms of it, I believe. But yeah, I definitely agree that it's there.
Did you get it when you were interning, or when you were going to box, or when you transitioned to a new team, or how did you ever ran into it?
Yeah, so it was more present, again, as I mentioned, at eBay, because my team was very technical. They knew a lot about software, worked a lot with engineers. So for me, I'm like, man, I have no idea what's going on here. Um, so I felt it a lot more at eBay. But over the course of time, as I started learning more, and as I went to transition into Box, I didn't feel it that much because I had gained more knowledge and more experience. So I do definitely think that over time, like the more experienced you are, the more exposed you are to that. Like it doesn't impact you as much, but it's still there. You just learn how to cope with it, as I did when I transitioned to box. When I joined box, I mean the culture there is great. Like the team is
Yeah.
very outgoing. So I do feel that the team and the people around you have a lot to do with it, because if they're very inclusive, and if they always like make you feel included, you won't feel it as much. Like, but if you're with a team that doesn't really pay much attention, doesn't really connect with you, I know you'll feel it more. But yeah, I definitely felt it more at eBay than box.
They make you feel a lot more comfortable over here, huh? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great company.
Yeah, because when I first transitioned to the IT role, I felt it. I really felt it. And I was like, do I even belong here? But I kept telling myself it was all most of it was all in my mind telling me that, oh, I don't belong. Oh, I feel uncomfortable. I just did my
Yeah.
work. I communicated with people that I didn't know. I did what I had to do, and I felt comfortable after once I actually told my mind like, hey, like you got this. Like you're here for a reason, and they chose you. So I
Yep.
start losing that imposter syndrome slowly. Um, Let me see. Where do you see yourself in like the next 3 to 5 years?
The next 3 to 5 years for me,
Mhm.
um, I want to say like I do see myself still, like in the career that I'm in for some time. I feel like the as project managers, I believe you're a project manager, right?
Mhm.
Or program manager. I feel like those skills that we acquire, we're able to apply them anywhere that we go. So for me, I'm just trying to learn as much as possible because I know that let's say if I ever transition into another company or if I pursue to start my own business, like those skills that I learned, I can apply them to that. So in 3 to 5 years, I see myself still working in this career, but also growing my personal like brand and company. So I work a lot with like just I have my own Instagram account. I make posts like specifically curated for like people that like of faith, people who believe, in just something more, I guess, powerful or superficial, whatever people want to classify it as. But yeah, I do that. I have an Instagram. My hope is, to like create a YouTube account and just spread awareness towards that topic as you have, and you've done a great job at it. Spreading awareness around fitness and health and personal development. So something very similar, but in a different, I guess, subject. So I do see myself growing that for sure.
That's good, yeah, man. I think you're absolutely correct when you speak about whatever we learn as a project manager, you implement it into your own business or into your own self. I've learned so much from project programs that has helped me develop my business way better. Different features, different software systems where different way of communicating and organizing things. Yeah, I see myself also as well, just working the same thing. Um, but yeah, man, I'm also ramping up my business, and so far I'm trying to inspire as many people as I go in the way, and they see these videos and they get motivated by them, by our guest speakers that we have, that I have, and um, so far I've been consistent with it, and I'm gonna continue being consistent with it, man. Yeah, I know. It sometimes it could be very overwhelming and stressful, having so much on your plate, but as long as you have a goal and a vision, and it'll get up there. And I know your social media platforms also will expand bigger. If you need any help, man, I'm always here too to help. Always here to
Thank you,
support.
man. Appreciate that. And as you mentioned, like consistency is key, like just being consistent. Just like I feel like you've been great at that. And that's one thing that I admire for sure, just posting every day, creating content every day. And people see that, and people, whether they're not paying attention to it as much, they know who you are. They know the platform that you have because they see it every day. And which is great. And I feel like eventually people will start to engage more because I feel like for the same it's like commercials or like let's say before they release an iPhone, there's commercials, there's ads, there's a whole like basically push towards it, and they're consistent with that, which is why they're able to to sell a lot and to get a lot of attention. But again, they're consistent with that, and like that's one thing that I know you've been great at, and like I know that whoever applies it, whether it be with health, working out, or studying, like consistency is definitely key.
Definitely. I think one thing that I want to speak a lot about, and this is something that I sometimes fall under, is making mistakes, man. I've made a ton of like grammarly mistakes, vocabulary mistakes. To this point, I still make a ton of mistakes, and people on social media still like dig me for them. But honestly, I learned a ton from them. Um, yeah, I learned so much from the mistakes that I make. Sometimes they bite me back, and I'm like I discourage myself for them, but I clear my mind and I say, you know what? Let's see where we learn from it. Let's grow from it, and let's not make it again. I think this goes back to anybody who wants to either make a business, either create a book. It doesn't matter what they want to do, man. It's ideally mistakes are going to be there, and those are the things that are going to actually um, push us up to be successful. I'm actually
Definitely.
I'm actually going to be making a post. I work with a cartoonist who creates me cartoon content, and I'm gonna create a cartoon of myself as an adult talking to my little self, telling him that it's okay to make mistakes and fail. That's the only way you're gonna succeed. And I'll probably post it either tomorrow or today.
That's awesome, man. That's great.
Um, what's one thing that helps you stay consistent?
For
That's a
me,
question.
yeah, of course. What's one thing that helps me stay consistent?
Mhm.
I feel like focusing on the end goal is what helps me stay consistent. Just for example, if I want to, let's say right now, like with the whole like FITown. All right,
Mhm.
if my goal, is to reach a certain, uh, like let's say low body fat, or like basically let's say a certain point of fitness, staying consistent with that, like, because I know, as you mentioned, there's going to be comments, there's going to be days where you're discouraged, but if you constantly focus on that end goal, or whether that be with saving money, like sometimes you feel like spending a little more on buying certain things, like just indulging and just buying things to supposedly satisfy you. But if you focus on the end goal, let's say your end goal is to save up for a down payment for a house, like if that's your end goal, like, and if you focus on that, like everything will just like fall through with that. For me, that's been something that's helped me, just focusing on my end goal. For me, one of my end goals, is to eventually grow a sustainable business where I do that full time, and I have to post. I have to do things for that,
Mhm.
and I know that if I don't do that, I'm never going to get there. If I don't, put in the work, if I don't pay my dues for that, I'm never going to get to that end goal. And in order to get to that end goal, you have to be consistent. So for me, it's just creating that end goal for yourself and focusing on it, and just not paying attention, to like distractions, or just the negative comments. Like, sure, it's good to hear them out, and hear the feedback, but not to give too much attention to that. But yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Totally agreed. Um, that's 100% true, and I'm glad, man. I think we all know, um, whether it's starting a business, whether it's graduating from college, doesn't matter what it is. We
Yep.
all know that it's hard. We all have put that in our mind that it's tough. It's not easy. There's no easy way out of even Europe. Europe was tough, man. And
Yep.
I'm not say it was easy. It's not. They overwhelm us with stuff, but if you put in your mind that you can do it, if you put in your mind that you're actually can achieve it, you will get there. There's also a lot of ways to stay organized by having a planner,
Yep.
having a routine. I think a routine is really works super well for me. I have a routine. I had a better routine before the whole pandemic happened. Now I think I need to create a new. I'm creating a new one that will consistently help me um, be more on point of my stuff that I have to do. Like I know in my mind now that I have to post every single day to stay consistent. So I do
Yeah,
it. There's other things that fall under stuff. Uh,
definitely.
how do we both feel about setting small goals throughout the journey? Okay, well I'll ask you that question first, and then I'll answer it.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. I would love to hear your input on that.
how do you feel about setting smaller goals throughout your journey?
Yeah, I feel like that's very helpful in order to like, stimulate, that encouragement. I mean, I'll go back to that example of like saving, let's say you want to save $10,000. Let's just put a number to it. Um, to get there, it's going to take time, but it's setting smaller goals, like, all right, like milestones, like, all right, I first want to save $100 this month, like if you get that, like, it's going to give you like a satisfied feeling, like there's that satisfaction, and it encourages you. It's like, and when you do that, you're like, wait, if I could save this, I could save this next month. And I feel like it can apply to like just you as well, like how you post, you posting every day, like there's a satisfied feeling from that, there's a great feeling. So that's a goal, It may be big or small, however you want to classify it. But I feel like setting small goals is definitely a key factor to like just building that momentum and getting that great feeling, like whether that be going on runs, like myself, like I'm not at the healthiest state that I want to be, but for me, like, all right, my small goal is to, let's say, like run a mile each day. Like as soon as I complete that mile, like, you know what, it feels great. I know my end goal is to be able to run, like, let's say X amount of miles, but I'm taking steps. So small goals definitely do help in terms of building that momentum and encouraging you to strive for that end goal.
For that big goal, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said it. You said exactly right. I mean, for me, ideally, I think small goals are super important. Like right now, I'm gonna be training for a triathlon. I'm gonna train for an Ironman triathlon. So setting
Nice.
up those little small goals are gonna get me prepared to that final triathlon in October of next year. Um, maybe doing a little more training with running, with biking, and swimming, which I have to incorporate myself with. And if I don't set those little small goals, if I don't like organize it and put it on a planner, or if I write it down, if I forget, or I put in my mind that there's going to be, if I don't train, I'm going to fail. um, I'm never going to prepare myself. So small goals are really, really, really important.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that's one way I really set myself for small goals.
Yeah. Small
Um,
goals lead to big goals.
exactly. I agree. 100%. What is something you would like to tell people who are hearing this, like people who are struggling or want more motivation, or overall just anybody who wants to look at this video? What would you tell them?
One major, like, I guess, word of advice that I've applied myself and I've seen great result from that is just being transparent. Just being transparent, like whether that be with yourself, relationships, careers, or whatever you're doing. For me, when I first went to my on-site interview for Box, I spoke with my manager, and then we were discussing compensation, so pay basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he gave a number, and then for me, like, like inside of me, I was like, yo, like I want more, So I, like, right off the bat, I told my manager, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be transparent with you because I want you to be transparent with me. And to be honest, like I wasn't expecting that number. I was expecting a little more, given the fact that I'm commuting far, and just my background. And he did. I mean, he didn't say much at that moment, but a couple of days later, when he called and what's it called, like gave me, basically mentioned that I was on board. And when he congratulated me, he's like, you know what, I thought about it, and how does, and then he raised that. So he raised it by, like, I think $5. I don't recall the exact amount, but he eventually gave me more, all because I spoke out. Had I not said anything, I probably would have stayed at that same pay rate. But just being transparent, I feel like is super helpful. In anything that you do, just being transparent with yourself and others. Because if you're not transparent, I feel like there's a lot of conflicts that can come from that.
Yeah.
So just being transparent and not being hesitant to, like, communicate what it is that you feel, what it is that you desire. Like right now, let's say maybe, I don't know if there's someone listening who is not satisfied with how much they're getting paid or how they're being treated, whether that be at school or at work. Like if you're not vocal about it and if you're not transparent about that, like you can't expect something to change if you don't do anything about it. So for me, just being transparent is like major key. Like, because that just leads to a lot of benefits. I can give many more examples, but I'll leave it at that. Just being transparent and just being vocal about just what you feel and what you think.
Yeah, not being scared to speak up if you
Yep.
want to state a point. Nothing's gonna change if you don't speak it up. I think you're 100% true. That, like, today we're gonna be, me and Siddiqui, we help out with Europe alums or Europe interns at Facebook right now. We're talking about negotiating. So that's one thing that I'm definitely gonna be speaking about: it being transparent and being straightforward. If you're worth more, speak it up, because they're gonna offer you something. They're contractors. They're actually getting extended 6 more months. So
Nice.
they're satisfied and happy. We help them ramp up on onboarding with any advice that helped us when we were interns at the time. And so uh, they are going to be negotiating. And I think that's super important to tell them. That's an amazing tip that I'm going to tell them to speak up and not voice up, and don't stay quiet. They're going to offer you something. If you're
Yep.
worth more, pick it up, or else you're going to remain at that same level, at that same pay.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, especially like I said in the comments, especially when asking for help too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being transparent for asking for help also is very important. Asking questions. You're never gonna learn if you don't ask for help. Whether you sound kind of dumb, like I think that's something for me too. When I go and I ask a ton of questions when I'm at work. Sometimes I'm scared of it because I don't want to sound dumb. But if you don't ask those questions, you're never gonna learn either.
Correct. No, definitely.
Well, yeah, man, I'm gonna leave it here. We make it a quick little Q&A, a little casual talk. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining me today, answering all these questions and inspiring people. Whoever sees this video, whether it's at YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, I hope we inspire a lot of them, a lot of either alums or somebody who's needs help and advice. That's why I do this in the beginning, to help as many people in the way, and I'm gonna continue doing it until I stop. Until I don't know, until I reach end goal, which I don't know when that will be. I know
Yeah.
that as soon as like the pandemic ends, I'm gonna be getting more an actual location where I'm gonna be filming and doing more of an actual face-to-face podcast. Right now, everything's virtual and VC. It's kind of hard with the quality. Finding a good software program to give me good quality video is it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
But once this all ends, I'm gonna be doing more in person and making it more long term, like for like an hour and a half, and make it a little later. So
Yeah, no, that's great, man. And the fact that because I feel like vision, is super super key. Being able to see, like farther, than this like pandemic. Just not being caught up in this, but focusing on, again, as you mentioned, the end goals. And yeah, man, I hope all of that works out for you. Like more power to you. Again, consistency is key, and I know that eventually, like you'll get to where you want to be.
yeah, and then any help and advice you need, man, or any support. I know it's tough, and I know sometimes we need that help overall. Like, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always here to help anybody who needs the help. Whether it's any support with um, advertisements, because I do a lot of advertising as well for my brand right now. And if you need any advice or how I did it or how I'm doing mine, I'm always here to help anybody, and
Thanks,
especially
man.
my a good friend like you. So
Appreciate that, man. And likewise, man. Anything that I can ever do to assist, just let me know. Again, as we mentioned, you're not being hesitant to ask.
exactly. All right, man. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy your Friday. The weekend's coming, so have a good one, man.
Likewise, man. Thank you. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you too.
Bye, Christian. Thank
All
you.
right. All right.